the 2024 NFL draft. And hey, 49ers got a first round pick to work with. They got a second round pick to work with. So we got a lot of prospects to dive into over the next couple of months. We're starting with Alabama cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry and Oregon State offensive tackle Taliese Fuaga. Are they future San Francisco 49ers? Coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers out there. We appreciate you subscribing up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 to play with. If your bet wins, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, Croc, former cornerback. So we're going to start with the cornerback position. And I love to defer to you when it comes to this position and when it comes to draft prospects and breaking them down. But I've learned a lot from you as well talking about cornerbacks. So I think I got this one nailed, and we'll see if we're close on these. And we haven't really shared notes about these prospects yet. And I think one of the keys to doing this, and I'm kind of glad I don't watch a lot of college football during the season, and with the 49ers season going through till February, I'm late getting in on this process. But I don't want to have my head too filled with information about these guys, because you want to go into it clean and have your own untarnished evaluation of these prospects. So for the most part, I am, but they're first round guys, and I know the names, and you see a little bit, and I've watched a little bit of college football, watched the tournament. So, I've seen some of these guys, and Kool-Aid McKinstry is one of those. And what's funny is with all these prospects, Kool-Aid McKinstry, aside from like Caleb Williams, is the guy I know the best, because I've known this dude's name for like 3 or 4 years, because his name's Kool-Aid. When he was before he committed to Alabama, I knew who this kid was. So obviously he was a big time 5-star recruit going to Alabama and played early for Nick Saban. Kool-Aid McKinstry, 6'1", 195 pounds, Croc. And to play early at Alabama, you got to be legit. He played mostly on the right side, which is interesting, because I think when you start talking about fits, and we picked these two prospects because I think the fit could be there for these guys, and I think it's the right area where the 49ers are picking late in round 1. I'm interested to see what your evaluation is of Kool-Aid McKinstry, Croc. But my two big, one of the things I've been trying to do when I'm doing these evaluations this season is what's the really short version, like the 1-word scouting report, the 2-word, the 3-word like phrase that explains a player. And I've got a big star next to smart and physical. And when you talk about a cornerback who's smart, physical, was a 5-star athlete, and plays a lot of right cornerback, which is where he would play as a rookie for the 49ers if they selected him in round 1, I like the fit, Croc, right away.
My 1 word for him, description of him, would be scrappy. So I think we're along the same lines there. I do kind of want to back up a little bit and talk about like how exciting is it to be able to watch first round talent caliber prospects, because over the last few years we've had to watch all these guys that we expect to be late 3rd, 4th round, 5th round, but now you kind of get to dive into the film on some of these guys, and we've been watching them over the last few days or whatnot, and it's like, oh, this is what it's like to watch a first round prospect. And I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is exactly that. One thing that really stands out to me, you have his numbers right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see 6'1", 195 pounds, right? That's his profile. On film, it feels like I'm watching someone like smaller than that. And not because he just plays small, but just it's really a compliment when you watch just the way he moves, how good of feet he has, the change of direction, the long speed, the really kind of versatility. Because if you go back, especially to LSU in the previous year, you watched him, line neighbors up kind of in this slot in the tight split, and how even from there he's able to run vertically with guys and pin them to the sideline. There's a lot of really good movements for Kool-Aid at that size. So even if he's not necessarily 6'1" and he ends up measuring in around 6 feet or really close to 6 feet, I think his movement skills is one of the things that really popped off to me as a really plus for him.
I don't think he's 6'1". I was going to ask you about that, what you thought his actual height and weight was. He's listed 6'1", 195. We know exactly how big Taliese Fuaga is because he was at the Senior Bowl. So we got that official measurement there, and we'll see if he changes any weight before the combine. But Kool-Aid listed 6'1", 195. 5'11 and a half, 190 is where I have him based on what I'm seeing on tape. What's interesting to me, Croc, so I watched him against, and I love this about Kool-Aid, playing in the SEC, playing for Alabama. I got to watch him play against LSU with a couple of first-round wide receivers. Got to see him play against Georgia. Got to see him play against Texas, who have some big-time receivers as well. So you get to see big-time matchups with this guy, which was a lot of fun, and see him compete with those guys. But Malik Neighbors is one of the players that he was, he wasn't one-on-one with him a lot. But Malik Neighbors is listed at 6 feet, 200. Malik Neighbors is bigger than Kool-Aid McKinstry. So something's off there with the measurements. It might be the Alabama measurements. Maybe it's the LSU measurements. So I'm really interested to see how big these guys actually are when they get to the combine. But he was patient. This is one of the things I've learned from you, Croc, with cornerback prospects is not shooting your hands too early, right? Being patient. He's impressed a lot, and you don't get to see that with a lot of corners at the college level. He's impressed a lot, but he's in no hurry to shoot his hands. He's always calm. He's patient in his pedal, turning with guys, running with guys. One thing I saw, though, from him, and maybe this is just how they're taught and their defensive scheme, is he gets beat to the inside a lot more. And sometimes it's because he's clearly got outside leverage when he's lined up in press coverage. But sometimes he's pretty straight up on him, and he's more susceptible to getting beat inside. So I don't know if you have any insight into their scheme or what reason that might be for a cornerback. But obviously he's pretty sticky in coverage. He's competitive. He'll fill against the run, setting the edge. There was one play against a big tight end from Texas where he kind of patty caked with him a little bit after the catch, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I got to tackle this dude." So then he went back after him, second effort, and and he took him down pretty easily. So you could tell he thought about it. He's like, "No, that's not the right effort. Let me finish this tackle," and he ended up making the tackle. So all in all, just a corner that I think can absolutely play early, and how high he goes in the NFL draft is going to be. If he's 6'1", 195 and runs fast, he's not going to be anywhere near pick 31. If he's 5'11", and 189 and runs 4.5, maybe he is there for the San Francisco 49ers at pick 11. So that's really what I'm going to be watching for with Kool-Aid at the combine. But the tape was awesome. I love it. Early starter in the NFL for me.
Unfortunately, I do not see 4.5 on film. He looks to be someone that really is able to mirror receivers and run vertically with them extremely well without even feeling pressed at all about anything. You don't see any rush. You talked about his patience. You talked about his patience at the line of scrimmage. A lot of times when we see guys that are patient like that, it's because they trust their speed. They trust their ability to run with guys. So, they don't have to be in a rush or in a panic early on at the line of scrimmage. Now, you also talked about kind of using his feet before hands. And I love that. I always tell my guys, feet before hands, feet before hands. And really what you want to do is use your feet to get you in position till you put your hands on a receiver. So I always tell my guys, press with your feet, really meaning use your feet to get in position, then you get your hands on. And I thought he did that well. Now, as far as guys getting inside, all right, on him, especially from press, which you see that a lot. That's the one tough thing with Alabama. Can he play zone, or how good is he at playing zone? Because you just don't consistently see it on film. You see a lot of great man cover skills, which I prioritize because I can always teach you zone. And he looks like he has the ability to be able to match guys, but just not a lot of off coverage reps from there. But when he does get slipped inside, I thought he did a really good job of leaning on the receivers. It's so frustrating when a guy takes an inside release and the corner is just running with the guy just to run in, and then the guy breaks his route off and goes inside, and then the corner kind of rounds it off and easily gives up a catch. And I'm not saying that never happened to Kool-Aid, but more times than not, I saw once a guy got inside, he did a really good job of leaning on him and anticipating an end breaking route, and was really scrappy and aggressive at the top of the route. So this is a guy that I would love for the 49ers to have. We talked about his size a little bit. We talked about physicality. There's one guy that really came to mind right away. I mean, just put the film on. Look how he moves. Look how he plays. Maybe it's the college number, but Janoris Jenkins, Jack Rabbit Jenkins.
Okay.
Former 49er somehow. All right. But man, when I just watch the way he plays and moves, especially from press and the physicality part of it, he reminds me so much of Janoris Jenkins. Now, the part you don't want from Janoris is I think Janoris was a little too risky from off coverage, and he would sometimes, a lot of times, kind of get beat, double moves, and he could whoop there. But there was a point in his career where I felt like he was like a top 3 corner in the league, and is going to be because of how good he was at the line of scrimmage. And I think for Kool-Aid McKinstry, I don't want to put that on him, but if he's someone that's there to be available for the 49ers at pick 31, I would, without a doubt, really have to take him. And for the 49ers, it makes a lot of sense because, well, on the outside right now, you have Diamond Lenore, then you have to slide him inside. Obviously, you have Travarius Ward. Well, Travarius Ward may not be with the 49ers past next year. Diamond Lenore, it seems like they like to play him more inside, but they've had to play him outside out of necessity. Go ahead and get a guy like Kool-Aid who says, you know what, I'm a man press guy, and put me on other teams' opposing receivers, and I have the physicality, I have the twitchiness to be able to match and mirror guys of any size. Really like him as a prospect.
A couple more notes on Kool-Aid, a couple questions I have, and a couple of stats as well, and then we'll get into Taliese Fuaga, big right tackle from Oregon State, could also be a future 49er next. The next segment is brought to you by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need a little opportunity, get some things off our chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you, and it's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased in your life. And look, it can. We do a lot of therapy pods, right, Croc? Especially for a team that loses the Super Bowl. And I know there's some fans that welcome back. By the way, if this is your first episode back, try to talk some listeners through that. But there's things that are a lot more important in your life than sports, and you should probably talk to a professional about those things. And therapy can be different for everyone, and most of us have much bigger problems than our favorite sports teams in our life, as much as it seems like that's the most important thing at times, especially when you're playing in a Super Bowl. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. So looking at Kool-Aid, listed 6'1", 195. I don't think he's quite that big. He's got long limbs though, which I like. And I think that's what makes him look a little smaller too. He's kind of got a small torso, long legs, but I think he's got longer arms too, which helps that size play up a little bit. How about this though? In 2024, 39 targets on the year in 14 games, gave up only 19 catches. 19 catches in 14 games. And that's a tough defense because there's a guy that's going to go even higher, I think, on the other side. Arnold, the other corner, is watching him a little bit, and he's like, okay, this guy's got something too. I mean, they're stacked over there. And they were going up against big-time talent. I will say, he got mossed. He got mossed against Texas, and Texas has some dudes. Number 5, Mitchell, 6'4", and Kool-Aid had pretty good coverage. It was a go ball down the left sideline for the offense. And who's it? Ewers is the quarterback there, right? For Texas, put it up there. Dude went over the top, and good coverage over top and mossed him. So Kool-Aid did get mossed there against Texas, and he would have given up a touchdown. Your guy Worthy, I think you like a lot, Xavier Worthy. He's definitely got some speed. Had a drop in the end zone. He was in motion, which makes it a little bit more difficult, but he was in motion to Kool-Aid's side, did a little quick out route, and it was a bad. I saw this a couple times, Croc, with Kool-Aid, and I think this is why I think he might. I don't think he's gonna run 4.5s or anything, but I don't think he's like dynamically athletic, which is why he might slip to the later portion of round 1. There's a couple times where he broke just a little bit slow on guys. I was like, yes, and it was part of that inside release thing where he got beat inside, and then he's like reaching. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't catch this guy. So I'm really interested to see how he runs. And I think he's plenty athletic, but it might be the thing that maybe 49ers fans should be hoping that he runs not the greatest 40 time, 4.48, something like that. And I'd be fine with that. But there was just a couple times that he was just a little late getting out of his break on guys. But you kind of nitpick in there. But you're going to nitpick if you're talking about a first round cornerback.
Real quick, I do want to kind of give my thoughts a little bit on that.
Okay.
Sometimes you can see a guy a little bit slower getting out of his breaks. 9 times out of 10, when you see that, is because the guy typically has bad eyes. So I would go back and look at that, and I know exactly what play you're talking about. It kind of ricocheted off of Xavier Worthy's hands in the end zone towards the pylon. I would go back and look at Kool-Aid's eyes and see when he made his break, was he driving the receiver first or was he looking at the quarterback? And if he was driving the receiver first and still there was that separation, which I saw there was separation there, then that would be more of an issue. But if it's something that I can teach or is coachable, which is, hey, drive the man first, then look back at the quarterback, that's something you don't worry too much about as a prospect, because I can coach that up. But physical ability, you kind of just have that or not.
He gave up a slant touchdown as well. And it looked like man coverage to me, but there was a slot defender that maybe he thought, I don't know, that was another play that I was like kind of unsure about. And, we can't do tape here on the video version of this podcast on YouTube. We're not allowed network wise to show the tape, but I would love to run through that play with you and be like, what do you think happened here? Because it was too easy of a touchdown. And again, it's a play he didn't make a break on. I think that was definitely more eyes than he was just too slow to make a break, because he was just really late to get to that play. And it was too easy of a touchdown against Texas. Did a really good job against LSU and those guys. And those guys are monsters over there. But anyway, that's Kool-Aid McKinstry. And I think Croc and I will both be very happy with Kool-Aid at the end of round 1. We'll see what he ends up looking like as a prospect. Combine, I think, is going to be important for Kool-Aid. He might be long gone by the time the 49ers pick, if he really is 6'1", 195 and is able to throw down some serious times.
Real quick, I did see that play down on the left sideline to the kid from Texas.
Yeah.
And it looked like what he tried to do, and this is not me justifying it, this is just me kind of explaining it for the people that can't see. He was getting his eyes back to the quarterback kind of late when he should have tried to work to play through the hands. So again, that's another coaching point, right? You're squeezing the guy to the sideline. You're doing a terrific job. Then he kind of turned and looked for the ball. And as he looked, the ball kind of faded the receiver away a little bit, and he was able to make the catch. I would say, man, when it's late in the down like that, go chest to chest, look through the receiver as long as you have control, which I think he did a good job of being there, and then go and try to fight through the hands or make a play on the ball. That's what I would say if I were coaching him. Maybe I'll message Deshaun Goldson after the 49ers draft and be like, all right, Deshaun, these are some of the things I saw. He can fix this, but all right, let's just work these things in drills. I'll come help if you need me to. I
didn't think of the Janoris Jenkins comp, but I like that one a lot. I was thinking almost a little Logan Ryan, actually.
Or Logan Ryan. Janoris Jenkins, 5'10", 193 pounds. And if you told me Kool-Aid measured in at that or even closer to 5'11", wouldn't be surprised at all.
And by the way, Kool-Aid, he'll probably play outside, just because if you're a first-round corner, you're going to play outside corner most likely. Dude could play nickel as well. Pretty easy, even though he didn't really do that.
Good feet, good physicality.
Yep. Next, we've got Taliese Fuaga. He is the Oregon State right tackle, and dude is a monster. He's your quintessential mauling offensive lineman. 6'5" and 7/8, so just a hair under 6'6", 322 pounds at the Senior Bowl. And my short version, mauler, dude is huge, and Fuaga will bury you. And so there's a lot to like there, and there's a reason he's in the first round of mock drafts right now. I do have some questions which make me believe he could be there at 31 for the 49ers, but I'm going to wait on those concerns and start with some of the things I like, which is, first of all, he's huge. And you see big 75 out there when you look at Oregon State, you're like, okay, well, that's an NFL tackle. That's what they're supposed to look like. Huge. And when he gets his hands on you, it's over. It's over in pass protection, and it's over in the run. And he loves burying guys, and I think NFL coaches are going to love him for that. And when you're 6'6", 322 pounds, and you have good feet, and you can move a little bit, which he can, He can get to the second level. That's first round offensive tackle stuff, Croc. Next, I want to get your thoughts on Fuaga, what you thought about his tape. And I do have some concerns, and there's a reason I think he will be, despite being mocked really high right now, I think he might be there late first round within range for the 49ers. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props. You got NHL hockey going on, and Major League Baseball right around the corner. Spring training is going, and of course, NFL draft props. If you think you have an inkling of where some of these prospects are going to go, more and more draft props all the time at FanDuel, which is one of my favorite ways to play. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So, offensive tackle Taliese Fuaga, and Croc, on the screen, I put right tackle because I think he's a right tackle only guy. And we've talked a little bit this offseason. Well, the ideal pick for the 49ers, even if they have to trade up for him, would be someone who could start immediately at right tackle, which Taliese Fuaga checks that box. And then maybe even moves over to the left side once Trent Williams decides to hang him up. And then you've got your long-term left tackle to replace Trent Williams. I'm not sure if Taliese Fuaga is that. And maybe I'm overrating what a right tackle is versus what a left tackle is. But I think some teams are actually going to look at Fuaga and say, I even like him better at guard. And when you start throwing the G word around, you're going to start falling in the draft a little bit if you're an offensive lineman. And the one thing is arm length. He's 6'6", 322. He's huge, but he's only got 33 3/8 inch arms, which are large human being arms, right? But when you're talking about offensive tackles, and these guys are freaks of nature, there's not many dudes walking around that are big enough and can move well enough to be an NFL offensive tackle and a first rounder at that. And he is under that 34-inch arm length threshold that a lot of teams like, and some teams just will flat out not draft offensive tackles. You are a guard if you're under 34 inches. Does it show up on tape is the question. What do you see in Taliese Fuaga, good and bad, Croc?
Here's the tough thing sometimes with evaluating talent and these guys. I haven't watched any other offensive linemen, so this is the first offensive lineman I've watched, and I'm like, he can't be this good. So I've only watched 2 games. Okay, so you and I, especially by the time the draft comes, I mean, between him and Kool-Aid and all the other prospects that we'll watch, we'll probably bang out, 4 or 5 more games of all these guys. Initially, what jumped out to me right away, aside from being that right tackle and not left tackle for someone who's a high prospect, I thought he moved to the second level extremely well. And you started talking about how he's a big mauler and he's physical, and once he gets his hands on guys, like, he doesn't disengage. He was really power driving guys to the ground. And even getting to the next level, I thought he looked very fluid in space. Now, again, nothing to compare him to from this class, but just going off of previous classes, there are guys that I've seen go in the top 10, top 15 that don't move as well as he does in space, especially for how big he is, which he's bigger than a lot of guys. So that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, are we sure he's going to last to the 49ers? But then when you talk about the arm length and things like that, I can see that being the case. You and I, sometimes people poke fun at us for not being really big or high on Aaron Banks. And the 49ers are telling us, oh, he's a really big guy, but man, we love the way he moves. And we're watching the film and like, I don't quite see that. I think this guy might take a little while because we're not exactly seeing that yet on film. And then we saw as a rookie, he just did not play. Now, some people say, well, there was Lakin Tomlinson. I think he just wasn't ready to play. And this guy. Okay.
And the 49ers have gone to more power gap stuff and not just all outside zone, which I think is a different set of dudes. And they've wanted to get bigger up front, which is part of the Aaron Banks thing. And that would fit right in with Fuaga as well.
Well, they want to go with Fuaga. Yeah, it definitely fits right in because Oregon State, what'd they do? If you let Oregon State run the ball 50 times, they would with Martinez, that running back behind them, which I'm excited to watch him this upcoming year. He's going to be a really good back in next year's class. But power team, but man, he was just as sweet in pass protection. I thought he had a beautiful pass set. I thought he anchored down extremely well. I talked about Aaron Banks, and I kind of want to bring it back, but he's the opposite of how we felt about Aaron Banks, like being a big guy, but he's going to need some work. You don't see the movement skill work, things that need work with him, with Fuaga. I mean, just really good, getting to the next level, getting hands-on guys, power driving guys, physical. And I feel like all the things that the 49ers felt about Aaron Banks as a guard, they get in this guy as a tackle. I was very impressed. But again, I don't have anything to compare it to yet, but I do know after watching guys like, I remember watching Abraham Lucas a year ago or so. And Abraham Lucas was drafted at the very top of the 3rd round. Like, I like him more than Abraham Lucas. Like, I know that for sure. So this is a guy who right away, really both these guys that we've talked about so far today, like I could see how some people would get excited about these guys, especially Fuaga. When you and I, when we talk about big needs for the 49ers, I always go to, defensive line. I think edge needs to be a priority. But everybody else, they want to go offensive line, right side of O-line, whether it's guard, whether it's tackle. If there's a tackle that you feel like potentially might be there around pick 31 and you need a guy, it feels like so far this is one of those type of players.
You nailed a couple of things that are in my notes too with his pass set. It's just it's an easy, smooth. He's actually it's a lot like Kool-Aid, right? Where there's patience to it. He's not shooting his hands too early. There's patience in his pass set. He gets back. He's really good taking on stunts. So he's getting his pass set. He sees these guys trading off, and he's there, and he's catching guys. And you can't bull rush him. The anchor is top notch. So Mahler, he's huge. He will bury you in the run game. He can get out on the second level, and he's got a great anchor. Now, I talked about reasons why he might be there at pick 31. I've seen him go as high as pick 10 in some mock drafts. A little high, I think, because of the arm length. And it's like, okay, who cares about his arm length? Does it show up on tape? And I think it does, Croc. He whiffs with his hands sometimes because when he locks on, it's over. But he whiffs a lot. And he whiffs in space. When he gets to the second level, he gets out there, move, and he's like, oh, this is cool. I'm out here. I'm a race car out in space. And then the DB's like, whoop, and he reaches and kind of bends at his waist and whiffs. He whiffed way too much in pass protection against I know he's the Senior Bowl one-on-one reps, you can't go through him. You can't bull rush him. But there's guys that are like, whoosh, whoop, hands around him. It's like, wait a second, what was that? And Latu, who's another first-round guy, UCLA defensive end. I watched the UCLA tape, and he got him a couple times at the Senior Bowl, and he got him on tape as well there. And the arm length thing, it shows up on tape. It's not just, oh, he tested this way. I see it. And there's teams that are going to say this guy's a guard. And so that's why I think he could slip. I love him at tackle. I'm fine with him at tackle. And I think there's some technique stuff because he's kind of whiffing. And I think they could probably work on how he shoots his arms, even if they're just a hair short. And he's not, he doesn't have T-Rex arms or anything like that. They're just slightly smaller than ideal for how big he is. And I don't like how much he does whiff in space and second level when he gets out there to run block against a linebacker or a DB, and he just completely whiffs sometimes. So maybe it's more maybe it's more once he does get out and move, you're a big guy, can he stop and redirect a little bit? And he has some problems with that, which I would guess most human beings who are 6'6", 320 would have some tough times getting out in space. And I think he was actually bigger and he might have slimmed down. So he might play more athletic in the NFL at 320 versus like 335 or whatever he might have been on tape.
Do you think that there are any kind of comparisons to Tristan Wirfs? Because that was kind of the thing with him, right? Like he kind of profiled a little as a guard. Like that's what a lot of the talk was, guard. And then he ended up slipping or falling. I don't even know if you can consider that when you get drafted number 13 overall, but he goes 13 overall and they're like, no, we're actually going to make you play right tackle. He's done that, and he's done that very well. I think he recently this year started playing some left tackle there. But do you see any comparisons there for someone who can kind of profile as both? Because there might be some concerns about maybe arm length, maybe feet or anything like that.
Yeah, the Tristan Wirfs was weird because he played left tackle early in his career, and he was so much better on the right side that people thought there was something to that. He was more freakishly athletic because while Fuaga is a really good athlete, that's one of the, and I'm I'm interested to see what these other guys look like on tape too, because I don't think he's necessarily a ballerina athletically. And I think some of these other guys are freaks of nature. And so I think some teams are going to look at Tyler Guyton and be like, man, this guy's just, his ceiling's higher maybe than Fuaga. Fuaga might be more ready to play right now, but this guy's got a higher ceiling, and he's for sure a tackle, and maybe he's a left tackle long term after we develop him for a year. And so that's going to be like ceiling versus floor debates for teams, and especially teams that don't view Fuaga or like him at least more as a guard than as a tackle. That's why I think he could slip behind some of these guys. And that was kind of the knock on Wirfs, although I think athletically and physically Wirfs was more of a freak than Fuaga is. So Fuaga is really interesting because he could play right away, right tackle, which is the immediate need for the 49ers. Maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling, but he's just a really good player, and he's really physical, and you'll be able to run the ball behind him, and he's really smooth in his pass set. As long as right now he doesn't have, unless he's going against someone like Nick Bosa, but that's only in practice. That's not going to be on game days if he's a 49er, right? Someone's got like just amazing hand technique to thwart his little bit shorter arms. And again, it's nitpicking, but we're talking about a first-round prospect here, and there's a good chance that neither Fuaga or Kool-Aid McKinstry get anywhere near pick 31. Maybe it's within a few picks, and the 49ers can trade up for one of these guys. But right now, on the Peacock draft board, there's two names on it. Which guy do you pick first, Fuaga or Kool-Aid McKinstry, if they're both available?
Ooh-wee. Did you watch the Oregon film?
Oregon State, Oregon? No, I didn't see that one. That's the one I was going to watch next.
So I felt like in that game, just going back and watching it when I watched it live, Oregon dominated Oregon State. And I wanted to see how he held up because it felt like they were overpowered in the run game. They were overpowered in the passing game. Like everything was just so difficult. So I went back today and I'm watching just Fuaga, and I felt like he held his own. Like, and when there was an issue, it wasn't him more times than not. So if you're telling me I get that guy that competed that way in a game where that they were just getting demolished, give me Fuaga. And I'm one, I'm big on you can never have too many coverage guys, but I really like the thoughts of him. I might be a little higher on him than you are right now, but I really like the thoughts of him being the right tackle for the 49ers, especially over like Kivitz. Or
some of it might be wishful thinking. I'm looking for the negatives why one of these guys is going to be there at 31 for the 49ers. So maybe that's part of it. But I've seen it too many times. When you're an offensive tackle prospect and people start talking about you like you're a guard, you're going to slip in the draft. Like, I just don't think he's going to go top 10, top 15. I think he's going to be there in the teens. He might be in their 20s. He might be there at 31. Might be at 31.
And that happens. I think Tyler Smith, the Cowboys drafted Tyler Smith. He played some guard. And then eventually he ended up playing tackle. And I think he playing. How's Tyler Smith? He's like, he should have probably been an all-pro. My brother thinks he should have been all pro. So,
well, your brother's Homer, so we can't. But if you get Tyler Smith with pick 31, I think 49ers fans would be real happy, right? So, a couple of really good prospects. I'm excited to dive in more.
And real quick, Tyler Smith was picked 24 overall, 25.
I think we wanted somebody else.
And then they wanted someone else, but Tyler Smith ended up being there, so they drafted Tyler Smith. And I want to say it was in the mid-20s. And again, that's the guy who. Maybe if there's a little bit of inconsistencies on film, maybe some things that he needs to clean up. I think that was the thing with Tyler Smith. Everybody kept saying he was raw. But he ended up being terrific for the Dallas Cowboys, playing multiple positions.
Kool-Aid McKinstry, Taliese Fuaga, both get the mark of approval from Peacock. They're on the draft board. We're going to start stacking them with all the rest of the prospects we look at. Who could be there for the Niners at 31? Who could be there in round 2, 3, and beyond early in the draft process, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. We're going to be breaking down the mock drafts that happen and the 49ers picks in those mocks as well throughout the draft season, and it's combine next week as well. So that'll be a whole lot of fun. Going live Thursday night for the Friday morning show as well tomorrow, so tune in for that one. Maybe even have some news on the 49ers' new defensive coordinator. Talk to you then right here, Locked On 49ers.